What do you think about the exhibition and the display of the exhibition here?
It's the first exhibition I've seen that engages the interest of ordinary people. Because a lot of people don't read plans, and architecture is something they just walk past. Because they don't, and from the cartoon, from the taking your shoes off, from the cartoon which is drawn to understand process, I think it brilliantly introduces a lay public to the whole notion of that architects are ordinary people and they can engage with the service, being of service to ordinary people, and that it's a process. And it doesn't do it in an intellectual way, which is what makes it accessible. It's not abstract.
And how you think about your work now in the context of the other projects here? Do you feel you're well represented, or is it a red line that you find here?
No, I think it's fine. To distill what something's about is fine. The only thing I think that doesn't communicate quite as much is the fact that it was made out of the earth of the site that it's on. But on the other hand, when you go through the process drawings, you can make that connection that it's made out of the soil, because what we're trying to do is saying where you have landlocked countries and where you have remote sites, maybe this is a potential way to consider working, because it involves community. Not in all situations, where it has and all of these projects has a story behind them, and none of it's easy. It's all difficult to do. It all makes you work 10 times harder than you do on a conventional project, which every author here will bear that out. But you do it because you love it and you're passionate about it, and sometimes the whole business of whether projects like this pay come into question. You need agency, or you need bigger projects that can carry the projects. But this is a good step in working your way towards, number one, making sure that you can afford to do it, and number two, making sure that the people who you're designing for are trained on how to have the facilities and access to money to maintain the building that's there. That's a whole thing that's another reality in the developed world.
Do you think the exhibition makes sense also to travel into Africa? Is it to put the question the other way around, is it a European view on Africa, or is it something that you feel is familiar to what you...
No, I don't think it's patronizing in any way. I mean, we've got to a point where people have woken up to the fact that Africa historically and in its present form has a lot to contribute. It's no longer this colonialist view that they have nothing to contribute, and that game is not being played anymore. The conference I'm going to in Beirut is addressing those issues. It's a hybrid two-way interaction, and I think it could travel well in Africa. It should be at the UIA Congress in Durban next year, because and it's also not a fortune of money is being spent on cabinets or making it, which is also which makes it sustainable, and its level of accessibility.
So we were speaking at the lunch about how many people can be reached by architecture. So this is, I feel, 26 projects for a continent of hundreds of millions of people. So this is a kind of a very small impact that we show here. Do you think there's something going on that this will be more in the future, or is this still a very, very limited size that we are presenting here?
Well, I think you're representing what you can gain access to. I mean, even if we had to stretch it, you're not going to find more than double these projects in the whole of Africa. But we're on a learning curve. We're all fighting, as activists, we're all fighting fights to do bigger things. And I always say to architects, you can do domestic work for the rich, and you can have a career where you've served 68 people in your life, or you can serve 6,800 people. And I just think we have such a beautiful discipline that we need to put our strengths in a facilitating way to a broader user public.
Last question. How do you think would it be possible to upscale these projects? Because most of them are very limited size, but they have an impact, but the impact we need is much bigger. So how can we come on the next scale?
How I'm going to answer that is in a lot of the emerging democracies that are in the developed world, the powers that be want the Porsche showroom in Stuttgart. And when you try and draw their attention to the fact that the peasants have really green, sustainable architecture, they see that as being backward. So you've got to play a whole lot of games. You've got to build an upmarket lodge using this technology for the ministers to say, oh, that's okay, and then you can do a housing scheme. So there's psychological battles that you've got to win before you get the chance to be freer. And all of these are trying to lever that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. That's enough.